All right, this story is absolutely wild. This Florida man on screen voted for Donald Trump and then watched his wife get torn away by ICE in front of his eyes, and she has now spent the past 8 months in a detention center with no hearing, no access to an immigration judge, and no progress as she sits in limbo, potentially about to be deported to Cuba. Now, this Trump supporter broke down crying on television saying this is not what he voted for, this is not what he wanted, and he even says it was a kidnapping of his best friend. He says that they've been best friends for 20 years, and it absolutely breaks his heart. Keep in mind that Miami-Dade has a large Cuban population, so it's not just this man that is going through this. Many, many people who voted for Trump, who didn't vote for Trump, are going through a tragic scenario right now, and I think two things can be true at once. Number one, for the Trump voters who did vote for him, it's important that there is a connection between your votes and the consequence of your vote at the end of the day. So at some point, you need to know that you can't just roll the die and vote for an orange lunatic because you think that he's funny or whatever. There is a consequence to doing that, and that needs to be known by everybody who voted for Donald Trump. On the other hand, you can still apply empathy to situations even if you don't agree with how the person voted. Even if you don't have empathy for this particular guy, I think that this is happening to so many families. The story that he tells right here of his best friend, somebody who has spent decades with him, making this country better, being torn away, and then kept in a detention center, no access to an immigration judge, awaiting to be deported, is a sickening thing that is happening to so many families. And here's the nuance, because I do want to go deep on this. When Donald Trump ran, he repeatedly talked about going after the worst of the worst, but then he would simultaneously say he wants to enact mass deportations. These two things can't be true at the same time. This is Stephen Miller at play. Stephen Miller is the bald-headed guy who is always spearheading the most extreme Trump policy and then screaming on TV and frothing at the mouth. Stephen Miller has set this quota of 3,000 detentions a day. They want to detain 3,000 people a day, which means they're not just going to go after criminals, people who are here illegally and committing crime after crime after crime. There's only a finite amount of people like that. The number is not even that big, so you can surgically target that, but that doesn't hit the quota. So now they're going after farm workers. They're going after people like this guy's wife. They're going after people who are on their way to the courthouse to have their day in court and potentially become a U.S. citizen. They're snagging those people, keeping them in detention centers, and deporting them so they can hit this arbitrary quota. It is sickening. It is un-American. And I want to remind you, just a few months ago, Donald Trump and Caroline Leavitt were trying to deport U.S. citizens. Listen.
So the president has discussed this idea quite a few times publicly. He's also discussed it privately. You're referring to the president's idea for American citizens to potentially be deported. These would be heinous, violent criminals who have broken our nation's laws repeatedly. And these are violent, repeat offenders in American streets. The president has said, if it's legal, right? If there is a legal pathway to do that, he's not sure. We are not.
This is batshit crazy stuff. So what they're doing is trying to deport as many people as possible, and just keep that framework in mind when you hear this man tell the story. Now, the extra layer is that, yes, he did vote for Trump. He is facing the consequences of his own vote. He didn't think the leopards would eat his face. He didn't think that ICE would eat his face, right? But at the same time, it's a pretty heartbreaking story.
Please, she does not deserve this. She's the sweetest person, and she prayed for you.
A desperate plea to President Trump from a South Florida man fearing his life partner could be deported to Cuba at any moment. He reached out to our Christian De La Rosa to share his story and his remorse.
This has been 8 months. I didn't know a man could cry this much. I did not think that this would happen.
Wayne DeMario has been working overtime at a Southwest Miami-Dade guitar shop, trying to distract himself from his pain and regret.
I hate to see her going through this. She's my best friend.
His life partner of nearly 20 years, Yamile Alcantu, originally from Cuba. ICE detained her back in June.
8 months that she's been taken. I call it kidnapped because it basically is.
He says it happened during what they thought was just another immigration check-in.
They grabbed her, put her in shackles and chains.
She'd been checking.
I'm sorry, I hate to say this, but we've been calling it a kidnapping before Trump even got into office. We've been saying on the Adam Mockler channel before Trump got into office, during the campaign, during Kamala's campaign, even when Biden was there, we said mass deportations were going to result in, number one, like the takeover of cities. We've seen that. Number two, it is going to get violent. We've seen that with Alex Peretti and Renee Nicole Good. And number three, they are necessarily going to go after people who are just hard-working immigrants. By the way, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed. Let's continue.
In annually, as so many do, hoping to fix her status. She lost her legal residency and got a deportation order back in 2008 after a traffic stop.
They go through her purse, and then they dump the purse out, and 3 Xanax pills fall out.
But in those years, he says, they didn't think much of it.
Cuban's not going to get deported, so don't worry about it.
Today, DHS has her listed among the worst of the worst, a criminal arrested for dangerous drugs in possession. Wayne feels it's a slap in the face.
Wait a minute. Just think about this. I'm sorry to pause it again, but think about this. They have painted this woman as the worst of the worst, a dangerous criminal who was in possession of dangerous drugs, right? The worst of the worst. And it's someone who had like a Xanax pill like 15 years back or whatever the hell. Imagine what they would do to U.S. citizens. I've said this before on my videos, but they killed Alex Peretti when they killed Renee Nicole Good. They dug up things from their past to try to paint them as extremists. I've always said, if like you got shot, if your family members got shot, if I got shot, they would dig up our old posts. They would say, Adam used to smoke weed back in high school, and due to that, he was the worst of the worst. Continue.
Arrested for dangerous drugs in possession. Wayne feels it's a slap in the face.
I didn't vote for this, but I definitely voted Republican.
He says both were staunch supporters of President Trump.
When you said I didn't vote for this, what did you think you had voted for?
I really thought this was just going to be something organized, but it's obviously not. They just blanket everybody.
Alcantu calling from her detention facility in Louisiana. She says in her 8 months detained, she has not seen an immigration judge. She stresses she's not a criminal, and her biggest fear, being deported, especially to Cuba.
There are going to be people out there who hear your story, hear other stories like this, and say, well, you voted for this.
Yeah, I've heard that from people.
What do you tell those people?
I'm sorry. I didn't know that this was going to happen. This is about human beings. It's not about left or right. It's about right and wrong.
Alcantu's record does have other violations on it, misdemeanors like petty theft dating back to the early 2000s. Wayne DeMario says he has spent his entire life savings on legal fees trying to get her back home. His friends have a fundraiser underway.
This is insane.
If you'd like to get involved, the link is under this story on our website, local10.com. Reporting in Miramar, I'm Christian.
This guy voted for Trump, and because of that, he lost everything. He lost his wife, who was deported. He spent all of his money trying to get her back. They are now having to do GoFundMes or fundraisers to try to get his wife back while she's in detention limbo because this administration doesn't give a shit. This is like, you guys want to know my honest opinion? And a lot of people in the comments are going to disagree or whatever, but I feel bad. I genuinely feel bad when I see somebody breaking down crying because they were too damn dumb and uninformed and decided to vote for the fucking orange lunatic who was always out there saying he was going to do mass deportations. Like, listen, do you guys think this guy is evil? He's clearly not. He's clearly, like, what's Occam's razor? Usually it's the simplest answer. Usually the people are just dumb rather than being evil. I genuinely think it's important that people face the consequences of their actions, but even if you want to remove this guy, just remove this guy from the equation entirely. You know how many families across the country have had the same exact experience? I mean, we've covered it on the Adam Mockler feed over and over. We've covered different variations of this. This guy just happens to have voted for Trump, and he says it's a slap in the face. Dude, imagine this. You vote for Trump, and they put your wife's mugshot up there and say dangerous criminal. Wow. I'm going to leave it there. If you appreciate these videos, drop a like, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.